about the election last week. It was a shocker.
It was on one level and not on the one everybody expected. As was predicted, Sheinbaum won the presidency, first female president in Mexican history. However, the shock is that the Morena party actually now controls both houses in the legislature as well. And after 6 years of the AMLO presidency, coupled with the 6 year term of Scheinbaum coming in, um, it'll be interesting to see what kind of policy is put into place when they have this super majority. Um, you know, it's definitely a leftist government, and they make no qualms about that. So it would not surprise me if some of these policies are going to lead to higher costs for producers. Obviously, the we've talked on more than one occasion about the cost of labor going up and the fact that the labor is becoming harder and harder to get. Um, but yeah, there will be more and more social policies coming into place, which will only increase the cost for producers. Um, the one benefit, at least for people in our sector of industry, is the when everybody woke up on Monday morning, the peso had quickly retreated back into the 18s, which is something that everybody, in our sector of industry, absolutely welcomed, because the peso had been growing stronger and stronger to the dollar over the last year. It started right around 18 and worked its way all the way up to 16 and a half.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the one piece of welcome relief that we do have. We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a pretty shocking move in a currency. Outside of some major devaluation or going, but so for the Mexican people, it's not a good sign, right? Because the guys that are playing the money game are saying, when you see a currency make a switch like that, they obviously were not fans of how things went down, because economically that's an indication that there could be some challenges for the overall economy in Mexico, frankly.
All we can do is wait and see.
It's all we can ever do on anything. But before we get into this, I have a question. Are you familiar with the giant huntsman spider?
Giant huntsman. I don't believe I am. Is this a Texas thing?
Well, it's no, it's not actually. We don't have giant huntsmen, thank goodness. But I spent a few days in the banana business, and there was always talk about stuff showing up and spiders and things like that. And I never actually saw it. We had a few reports of it, but there was. See if I can pull it up here. It apparently it's the largest spider in the world, Matt. And like I say, I was in the banana business, and apparently over in London, um, there was one showed up. So, can you see that ugly sucker?
I can. I mean, the picture looks small. The spider, on the other hand, does not. It looks like a crab.
So yeah, he's like a crab, but his eyes. I mean, the eye component of it is I don't know. Anyway, that was so. It was at a school, right? So the school people unboxing banana. This dude came jumping out, right? And so you could only imagine what kind of scurrying around took place after the giant huntsman spider came out. So anyone listen, take a look at this photo. I don't even exactly know how I came across this, but yeah. So opening a box of bananas can be dangerous. I'm just going to say right now.
Apparently, some people in that school needed a new pair of trousers after that.
I know I would. I'm not typically scared of spiders, but one with six eyes across its face, I'm getting out of the way pretty quick, especially if the dude's jumping.
So where are the other two eyes then?
Yeah.
8 eyes and 8 legs.
Well, I didn't count them. Maybe there was eight. I don't know. I didn't count all the eyeballs. Maybe there were eight on there. So anyway, well, I got it. Like I said, we didn't start off with weather this time. We hit politics. We hit spiders. and humidity here in beautiful Texas. I guess we did touch a little bit. I guess we did start with the weather now. I think about it. So well, so much for that.
Can't get away from the weather.
Can't get away from it, and we're going to go back to weather because there's a couple of things. It has calmed down, at least in the east. We didn't have any big storms. I'm out of churches to burn. We had my church burning down last time from a lightning strike, and but the weather's been decent. And I was talking to some guys here in San Antonio while I'm here, some guys out of South Texas, and for all the rain Texas has got, they've basically been missing it all, and they desperately. I mean, it's you and I talked about the Sinaloa situation a few weeks back. It's as bad or worse in South Texas on a waterfront.
Which is
Um,
obviously not good for the producers there. And we know the water woes continue south of the border as well. So, the thing that worries me is the monsoon prediction for this summer, right? You and I have talked about it offline, but bring it to the masses here. The the prediction is for a hot and drier than normal summer, right?
yeah,
So
for sure.
what is that going to mean for the long term health of the aquifers and water tables in these various growing regions? And what is the long term prognosis as far as production goes? We talked about the uncertainty of plantings for next fall and winter in Mexico. Um, I mean, are the growers down there talking about reductions as well?
Yeah, they are. That's what So it's a dual problem, and it's a citizen problem. It's bad enough that there's concern about having water for people, similar, Sinaloa, same kind of a deal. But absolutely, they are. There's likely, some of the guys I talk to, and they're going to be more in the celery business. Some of the leafy green, not the romaines and stuff, but the hardier varieties, bok choy and stuff like that. But yeah, they're talking about very likely things like celery and stuff. They don't have a choice because they don't know where the water's coming. They're in the same boat we were in last year, and well, the same boat we're in this year.
Hmm.
They don't want hurricanes, right? Because the damage they bring, but literally, they need that kind of water level to catch up. It is pretty desperate. It's dire, and I knew that they had some problems, but I didn't know that it gotten to the point where crops are going to be. It looks like could be reduced for this coming fall, late fall, early winter stuff.
Couple lower production with the increased demand numbers we talked about last week. It's a perfect storm for inflation in the fruit and vegetable business. Um, while that may help the total dollar sales, going across the registers. When we're in the business of trying to increase consumption, that definitely does not work in our favor.
Well, we're seeing it when we get to talking markets a little later. We'll see. We'll talk a little bit about the markets that we're seeing right now and kind of the outlook for the summer. But um, yeah, I mean, I think that the inflation thing is real for a bunch of different reasons. Cost of production, water, all that stuff is finally catching up across the ag space, and we talked about the monsoons. You mentioned that. Obviously, when you and I are talking monsoons, we're talking the Arizona, and they're calling for. Um, Last year we were 17th on record of the driest monsoon season, and they're expecting it to be at least that bad this year. Which again, that's Arizona, but that really translates into Mexico and those areas. They're going to be facing it, and it's a problem, and it's a problem which will inevitably higher prices, less product. It's potentially going to have an overall effect on the consumption rate of produce. So definitely concerned. One area where there is not a shortage, and that is in the trucking space. And uh, It's I've got a graph here that I'll pull up showing where that's been, but you know trucks availability. I'm reading a report this week. Just trucks in general, right? Not just refrigerated trucks, but trucks in general have not been running through first quarter. They had a really the whole trucking industry had a tough time through first quarter, which it was really driven by a lot of different stuff. But the key thing, the main thing they're moving around is products for retail sales. And through first quarter, when you look at the numbers, it was reported that to be up, but that was on dollars. If you factored in inflation against those dollars, retail sales were actually down. So, on a full on economic basis, I think it's there's concerns as to what the trucking business, uh, yeah, what they're up against and what they're going through. And here's a look at the just the average trucking rate. I mean, you can see here, this thing pricing wise was at the peak back, in what July of last year, and now you've seen it's dropped dramatically since July of last year. In fact, it's been tough on those guys, and not sure what I'm not sure what to make honestly of the economy when you think about it. It's like everything I hear from Wall Street is great. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that's it's somewhat dichotomous in that people seem to be continuing to spend money at retail. Consumer confidence remains, high, and yet there's fewer goods being sold, there's fewer goods being trucked. And I still have a hard time wrapping my head around this data because, as you and I know, we have a very, very small trucking outfit, and yet we have a hard time finding drivers. So, with the incredibly low unemployment rate, and yet these trucks aren't moving, it seems hard to reconcile those two issues.
Well, it feels like with the worst economic situation you get into, and certainly hope this is not the case. I hope it's something else going on, but it feels like stagflation. When you've got retail sales that are down, and ultimately, like I say, we can't find drivers. Well, the reason it's hard to find drivers is you got an unemployment rate that's been at record level lows. Um, you're starting to see all the kind of pressures. I mean, if in fact the hurricane season is what they say it's going to be, that's going to affect fuel supplies, and that's going to drive those markets higher. And that's really the last thing. I mean, you've got commodity prices like copper that are all-time highs right now, and so you see commodities across the board. Like I say, even in our space, we're seeing our commodities drive up to higher prices. And then you couple in if fuel catches. I mean, the oil's been actually trading relatively average. I mean, it's not low by any stretch. I mean, the gas prices certainly aren't that low in terms of what we were looking at 2 or 3 years ago. But if it those storms come through, and if fuel starts to go the other way and oil gets closer to that $100 a barrel, um, yeah, inflation is going to get worse, not
Yeah, I mean,
better.
I was just at an economic forum yesterday that was talking about the interest rates, something we've touched on before. Then, Chase Bank still predicts that there will be three cuts in July, September, and December of this year. And everybody, they polled everyone in the audience, and there was uh, maybe a quarter of the people there figured there were going to be zero interest rate cuts, and probably 60% of the people thought there was going to be one cut between here and the end of the year. Unfortunately, the economic indicators just do not support rate cuts.
No.
I don't want to get further into politics, but that could play a role in the actions of the Federal Reserve. But based on everything I'm seeing, there's no justification for rate cuts at the moment.
No, I mean, and you know where I stand, and I've been of the camp. I mean, I'm the guy that actually thinks not only will there not be a rate cut, I think there will be an increase. The only thing, and you mentioned, in politics, and the Fed's not supposed to be politically motivated, and let's hope they're not. But okay, you know, let's be real. There's a chance they are, and for me, the only reason there would be a rate cut because there's no indicators economically that should warrant it, especially if they want to get to a 2% inflation rate, which they're not at, and they've got unemployment at record lows. So it's not like you're trying to get people to go back to work. There's zero reason for them to, and I literally think a rate increase is more likely in my book. And I know I'm in a very small percentage of people, but I think that's kind of where it's going. So,
The tech sector used to be the bellwether of things to come, and at least you are starting to see some downsizing in that sector. Whether or not that's going to explode out to other industries or sectors or not, hard to say. But based on everything we see as of today, I don't see any reason for changes.
we'll see kind of how things go. Like I say, there's definitely been some deflation in the trucking industry, and availability is there. I know for those guys, they would really like to see retail sales get back on its horse and start climbing again. But that certainly hasn't been the case through first quarter, and not sure there's going to be much relief over the next few months. But again, we'll see. So one thing that there has been, I guess, I have to, I make a prediction, I got to own up to it because I'm absolutely going to take credit for it when I'm right. So, the watermelon space, it's hanging in there, but it's definitely not. I don't think it's going to make that 225 I was calling for. I don't think we're going to see the 225s. I think we're
I
already
wasn't I
seeing that
wasn't as
that soften.
bullish as you were, but I honestly thought there was going to be more strength to it than there is. And if you look at the USDA data on watermelon, the numbers have actually been coming down the last few weeks, and yet compared to what they were a month and a half ago, they're much higher than they were. So is there more availability? Yes. Is watermelon a little more shelf stable than some of the other commodities we talk about? Yes. So we'll see if this Fourth of July pull does actually affect those markets. But since we talked first about this, what, 3, 4 weeks ago, the market has definitely softened. Right now we're looking at maybe 150, $160 a bin.
Yeah.
Uh, it seems to have found a more or less stable pricing. Um, but yeah, and again, those are on the premium side. So once you start getting into the off sizes, you're looking, down in the $120 a bin range, which, is considering all the inflationary pressures that we've talked about, we're getting pretty close to cost of production on those smaller sizes. So if this market does not hold, it's going to spell some hurt for some watermelon growers for sure.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. We definitely need the demand to pick up for this 4th of July and summer pool and maybe this hot, humid weather here in Texas, and which I think is pretty much all across the world. And the hot temperatures back in Arizona, people start picking up a few extra watermelons and kick the demand up. But yeah, I think you're right. I'm hoping, we hold the 150s at least into next week and see it start kind of climbing up just for that pool. But right now, it's weird, but it's certainly not showing it. So we'll see where it goes. Now there has been some inflation, I think, in the squash market. Is that correct?
It's a nice way of putting it. Here we are the first week of June, and we have prices nearly at the highs that we saw in the middle of the winter when production was disastrous. Now I've been doing this a couple of years, here and there over the years. This is by far the highest pricing that we've seen in the first week of June, easily over the last 2 decades. Squash, zucchini pricing, anywhere from $32 to $36, reports upwards of $40. Um, and while production is down, uh, you know, at these prices, it's going to have an effect on demand, right? People just
Yep.
aren't going to buy the same amount of squash if retail does go ahead and raise their prices. Um, Good news on the production front is you do have some more new growing areas that are starting, at least up out of Mexico. You mentioned the East Coast having some fairer weather, so hopefully that will help the production on that side of the country as well. But you know, people just aren't going to buy the same amount of squash once retail start to adjust with these $30+ FOBs.
Yeah, no, that's for real, and yeah, I think you will definitely start to see that thing slow down. That's the old saying, and I think Dustin mentioned it, when he was on here a couple of weeks ago. But the cure for higher prices is higher prices, and so it eventually will fix itself on the demand side, and eventually, like I say, reduce consumption around enough, and then squash is a pretty quick turn crop. I mean, 30, 40 days, you get the right heat, you can get in and have it out there pretty quick. And so at these prices, there's probably, hell, I'm planting squash at the house, counting on it. So
You better be prepared to eat it because I tell you, you need one plant and it's enough for a family
yeah,
your size.
yeah, for sure. So, but on the so I had our data guy, our sun-fed data guy, do some analytics just real quick on squash, and well, did it on the entire veg market, and I was really surprised. I mean, looking back from 2009 up until this year, really, we've seen about across all veg. Now, this takes in, like I say, from cauliflower to carrots, you name it. It comes in at about 35 to 36% increase in retail pricing, which I was a little taken back. I mean, but if you do the math, that's 1 or 2% a year. But still, I was a little surprised. I mean, I don't feel like we felt that certainly on the sales side,
It,
and
it
I want to
it'd
look
be
into that.
interesting to see the same numbers on FOB pricing, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, when it comes to consumers, they don't give a rat's ass what the FOB prices are. They care what they're paying at retail. So
yeah,
those additional dollars at retail will definitely add up. The question is how much of those dollars are actually making it back to the producers.
yeah. And I dare say, I mean, again, I'm just doing it over being here since my time frame since 2015 till now, and not even going back, but certainly looking at the numbers. Yeah, I don't think the FOBs have been anywhere in that range, and I would dare say a lot of that's been driven by some of the increases in transportation, increases in warehousing costs, things that are in market. Higher prices have probably driven up the actual retails, but yet back at the farm level, they've only experienced the inflation on the cost side and not been able to at least enjoy some of the gains on average. So, and I think that may be what we're faced with. That we may be up against, that's the thing. Finally, it gets to the point where they can't afford to do the business, and so therefore enough of them get out and not keeping up in demand, and we may start to see that, and you're seeing higher prices across all the veg. And when I looked at squash specifically in this report, it had shown a retail increase of about 45% over that same time frame. So, yeah, much bigger numbers than I expected. Granted, it's only a couple of percent per year if you look at it over that time frame. But I don't, like I said, I know we have not seen no 45% increase in FOBs in squash prices since 2009. I don't even have to look at that.
Anecdata is sufficient on that front.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, the squash thing is crazy, and I've not seen it in my shorter period of time, for sure. And you and I have talked about it. Gray squash, $25. Are you kidding me? I mean,
We know the magic number, $16. Anytime it goes above 16, yeah, everything just slows way down. So
yeah,
there's clearly something going on the production side of things that's driving those numbers. But as I mentioned, it does seem that there is new production coming on board here in the short term. So I think there will be some relief on those prices. But I still think this is going to be well north of $20 for at least a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I do too. It feels like, I mean, it all seems like California just doesn't have the production they've had in the past. I think they've been a factor, and the East is still recovering from the weather effects that they had, and they're still trying to catch up. And like I said, that production out east is coming on, and once that kind of gets in, that'll help kind of settle things out. But I think north of 20 is that's a real possibility unless demand just comes to a screeching halt. So you know.
So what's next? Cucumbers?
Yes, sir. The slicer world. What say you on slicers?
That's another one of those. I think we predicted that pricing was going to be stable to slightly higher, and yet there was a pretty significant jump over the last week in FOB pricing. We're up in the $20 to $24 range, depending on the size and shape of the cukes that we're talking about. But from the $16 to $18 that we had last week, that's a significant jump. I'm sure you've probably heard the FDA put out a recall on some slicer cukes. Um, you know, Kudos to them in that they actually called out slicer cukes versus cucumbers in general, and they specifically said this does not affect seedless long English mini cucumbers. However, they did note, in a footnote of their release, they don't believe that any of these cucumbers are still in the marketplace. So from a consumer confidence standpoint, you would think that they would lead with that and just use it as an advisory. Thank God nobody has died from this outbreak. There's been, I believe, 50 some odd hospitalizations. Um, but again, if none of this product is in the marketplace, all they're going to do is erode consumer confidence in the cucumber space. Um, just as FOBs are starting to go up, they can quickly come right back down if that demand just shuts off.
Yeah, and that's this whole business that it's unfortunate how isolated cases like that can occur, and then it becomes a national story, and it affects the whole category. I don't care. I mean, I saw it. When I mean, we've all seen it several times. I saw it back in, I think it was '08 when the tomato guys got hit, and jalapeno deal. It's really unfortunate a lot of times when you get in a situation like this that's isolated, but it gets put in the media, and then it's like every cucumber's out there. So again, it's fortunate there's been no serious any reports of serious illnesses or death to my knowledge, and I think it will be from a real standpoint isolated event, and the cucumber market again hopefully doesn't suffer that. But yeah, I did want to pull up before we got off of the slicer deal. I did pull up from our friends at Produce IQ. You can see, I mean, we were trending through last week right online. I think when we see this report next week, you're going to see it's spike above um, where it was at last year, and I do think that we're going to stay on trend, but I think we're going to stay on trend at a higher level in the cuke space is kind of my outlook, and
I
you know,
would I would I would agree with that assessment. I mean, obviously, we've talked about it in the past. The cucumber market during the summer months is typically higher than it is in the winter months, but with the different production issues that we've touched on more than a few times, I agree. I think this is easily going to be a $28 plus market for the majority of the summer months.
yeah. And then our Roma friends, they finally, we 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we talked about it being $17 at the farm in Mexico, and the market went north of 20, and then it promptly crashed the following week back down, and it's kind of messed around there in that at 9 to 10, 10 to 11 range, but it's finally up at the 12s now, and it looks like it's got legs.
Yeah, I think over the next week, $12 to $14 is going to be a steady range that it should trade at for, and which is typical for this time of year. The fact that
Yeah,
it dipped down, and on mediums you were bumping your rear on the minimum, but that again with the production that we have during the summer months, that's just atypical, and thankfully it was short lived. So I think we'll see decent pricing and decent movement over the next week.
Well, let's get to kind of our final one of the day, if you will. We always have fun with this category. It's always a tricky one in the summertime, and that's our beautiful green bell pepper category.
Green bells, yeah, and there's not a ton of change from where it has been. Production numbers have been, roughly steady. That said, stuff coming up out of Mexico has basically dried up entirely now. You do have some crossings in Texas. You will have some stuff starting up over in Otay, but realistically, the numbers are down from where they should be. 20 to $24, depending on sizing. Your choice market is still going to be depressed. Probably looking at $14 to $16 there, but I don't see that market changing anytime soon. And availability on good product, I have not seen much out of Mexico lately that I would hang my hat on. Seen some really nice stuff out of California. What do you see or hear on the East Coast?
Yeah, the East Coast. I mean, again, it's what the quality they've got. I mean, the percentage of the crop that's coming off. They're ramping up. They're trying to ramp up, but they've just not been able to get the quality, for the primary demand. So it's kept that premium side up on the higher side of it, and then that they do feel like that's going to adjust, and they're going to start kicking in with some of their new crop, and some of that is going to start to help that out. So probably, I'm guessing, call it 5 to 10 days outside of any barring anything. I don't think we're going to see anything come off hard, but I do think you'll see a better availability of better quality green bell peppers out there, and that market's probably going to hold in that 22 to 24 range if I had to guess on it. But looking at this graph here from year over year, last year, wow, I forgot how depressed it was for a few weeks there, and you can see we're definitely spiking above that, and I don't foresee us, falling back to the levels we saw last year. I think it's going to hold pretty firm for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, yeah, and the one thing that we haven't really touched on is the organic space. Uh, I think organic green bells are going to be very short all summer long, based on all the people I've talked to. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of production out there. So if that's a market you're trading in, you can buy some futures. I'd peg the price right now if you can.
That's a crop that just trying to grow. I mean, bell peppers are hard enough when you're doing conventional, but you add in the complexity of doing the organics, and the price the grower needs back to make that deal work. Over the years past, it's been a failed effort, and really it's not as much about price; it's success of crop, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like it's really hard to do bell peppers, like I say, even conventional, and then you throw in what you got to do to make it organic, and quite often you certainly don't get yields like you would on conventional, and quite often you don't even get a crop you can sell in the premium market or stuff you can sell. So yeah, I don't really know how you fix some of that, to be honest with you. I think that that's just growers don't want to grow it. There's too many other options out there for them that they know they're actually going to get something they can get money for.
And I
So
mean, again, unless the market's going to pay a super premium for that product, I think that's one they're going to continue to see decreased availability during the summer months. Obviously, being able to grow it in some type of protected structure makes the organic experience much easier. Still difficult, but much easier. Um, and there's just not enough protected growing being done during the summer months. So I think that's one that's just going to be sky high pricing all summer long.
yeah, yeah. If I remember correctly, it was pretty much that last year, and so I think we're going to be probably looking at a repeater. Hey man, certainly great catching up, Matt, and getting through all this stuff. It's like I say, I like delving off into the politics of Mexico, and then delving off into how some of that's affecting our crops. So, but just all the way around, it's a lot of fun catching up. So appreciate it.
Pulling out our crystal ball, we'll We'll see. We'll see about next week. You're going to be in DC, but the week after, we'll see if we can have an international edition of the Credible Vegetable Report. We'll see how that plays out, and
Yeah.
we'll,
So
we'll, we'll see what our
you
crystal balls see how clear we could see through our crystal balls.
so are you gonna do the report all the way from across the pond, as they say?
I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna be. I think we typically do this on Wednesdays. I think that's gonna be my travel day. I'm gonna be traveling from Dublin to Reykjavik, so we'll have to see how things play out and see if the time permits.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to come on with my Irish accent and see if it spices up the report a little bit.
You know what? I think you should do all these podcasts going forward. You go to Dublin, you have a few, Guinness over there, little Irish whiskey, and then from that point forward, you lean into your heritage, and you're coming with that Irish accent.
We'll see if it makes my predictions any better.
All right, man. Well, certainly had a good time, and we will look forward to hopefully catching up from you next week from over in Europe. And take care, be safe, and thanks, guys, for listening. We appreciate it. Please hit us with a like or comments, or we're not saying what we need to say, or say something different. I don't know. Let us know what's going
Let us
on.
know what we got wrong. Everybody's got opinions, so let us hear them.
Yeah. So thanks again, guys. We'll see y'all soon. Take care. We're out.
Take care.